Hello, Garland Nixon here, and it's time for our weekly update with Laith Marouf. He is in Beirut, Lebanon. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here with Laith Marouf. And for starters, don't forget, Laith Marouf has a website. It's free. Well, it's not his per se website, but it's the an organization, some people that he's working with, doing really fine work. It's freepalestine.video. That's freepalestine.video. They're doing some really good media work. It's in English. And they need, of course, your assistance to do this good work. So go to freepalestine.video and donate today. Thank you very much. All right, we're starting off. Let's get rolling. We got a couple of stories. Arrests made outside at protest outside Toronto area synagogue hosting event marketing occupied West Bank land. Interesting. We got a couple of more articles to go that are similar. I'm going to put them up, and then we're going to get some clarification. What the heck is going on here? Next, man charged after bringing nail gun to demonstration in Ontario. And last but not least, let me find it. Hundreds of Palestinians supporters protest Israeli raid. Did I already do this one?
No.
Okay. A real estate event at New Jersey synagogue. Okay, so let's get to it. It appears to me, Laith, as best I can understand this story, that there are people selling the land that the Palestinians actually occupy right now, selling their houses right out from under them. What's going on with this story?
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, obviously, the Zionists have been selling Palestinian land in North America to settlers that would want to come to settle the land in Palestine. But right now, because of the demonstrations that are happening against Israel in general in North America, we see that these Zionists who are trying to sell this stolen land had to hide in synagogues to be able to conduct this illegal activity without the threat of their events being shut down. And of course, as predicted, the Palestinian Arab and Muslim community came out to demonstrate in front of these synagogues to highlight the theft of land that is happening. And unfortunately, very little of what we call anti-Zionist Jewish peoples, organizations like the Independent Jewish Voices or Jewish Voice for Peace, they officially refuse to demonstrate at these synagogues. While, in my opinion, it is actually the moral and religious responsibility for anti-Zionist Jews to actually go into these synagogues that are preaching hate, that are preaching the opposite of the 10 Commandments: don't kill, don't steal, don't covet your neighbor's house, and are desecrating these synagogues by selling these stolen lands. And as we saw in Toronto, in the Thornhill neighborhood of Toronto, one of these crazy Zionists brought a nail gun to the demonstration and was shooting from this nail gun on the Palestinian demonstrators outside the synagogue. There was a group of 4 JDL, Jewish Defense League, i.e. Kahanists that are in Canada and the United States, that attacked demonstrators in Montreal, beat up people, including women, and 4 of them got arrested by the Canadian police. And finally, this happened again in New Jersey, and it's going to happen again over the next few days across the United States, because this company selling the stolen land has a tour, it seems like, in Canada and the US. This will happen over the next few days all across the United States, and we will see this. So on the one hand, I believe the anti-Zionist Jewish organizations are failing their responsibility. On the other hand, we see that right now the Palestinian and Arab and Muslim demonstrators that are going to stand outside these synagogues that are selling the stolen land are being targeted by the states in the in Canada, by the politicians, and their demonstrations are being portrayed as if it's attacks on the synagogues themselves, not on the sale of stolen land in these synagogues.
Wow. Well, that's of course, I'm glad you brought that to everyone's attention. So if that's happening near you, or if you see these articles, you see these stories, you know you know what it's about. Thanks a lot, Laith. Okay, let's start with let's next move to what's happening in the region. Ramadan. Certainly there's I understand there's things going on regarding the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the attempt by people to worship there, etc. What do we know about that, and how does that affect the trajectory of the conflict?
Yeah, the first day of Ramadan was yesterday, and as we saw, the Zionists, didn't allow Palestinians many of them to go into the mosque. Only around 30,000 made it into the Aqsa Mosque. Usually there's over 100,000 to 200,000 worshippers every night during Ramadan. We saw the military beat up Palestinians trying to enter Jerusalem over the last day. And of course, we saw the Israeli military for the first time since 1967 put barbed wire at the entrances of the Aqsa Mosque. So now it is clear that the Israeli government will attempt to limit the religious freedoms of Palestinians during Ramadan. This is going to instigate more resistance, of course, from the Palestinians. From now till the first Friday of Ramadan, first Friday usually brings in the biggest crowds, or every Friday during Ramadan brings in the biggest crowds of worshippers. It is expected that the situation will deteriorate rapidly. Last night there was street fights between Palestinians inside Jerusalem, in Sheikh Jarrah and other neighborhoods, with the Israeli military. And this is going to, of course, continue over the next few days. And this is going to be triggering to many of the Muslim people around the world. For our viewers that don't know, Ramadan to Muslims and the fasting inside Ramadan, during Ramadan, is the intention of it is for Muslims to remember those who are hungry, those who are poor and suffering during that month. So imagine Muslims breaking the fast, and while they're watching Palestinians in Gaza starve and cannot even find something to break their own fast. Of course, Palestinians have been in Gaza, have basically been starving this whole last month and a half, and now the emotions of all those Muslims and Arabs in the region are going to be triggered with this starvation during Ramadan.
I understand there's been increased artillery, rockets, etc., exchange from Hezbollah. At least that's being reported. Do you know anything about that?
Yes. So this morning, since the morning actually, Hezbollah has fired close to 150 missiles on the bases of Israel in the Golan Heights. and in the North Galilee region. But much of those, over 100 and somewhat of them, were directed specifically at the bases in the Golan Heights. And this coincides with an Israeli exercise, a military exercise inside the Golan in preparation for their confrontation with Hezbollah. So it seems that the Israeli troops that were coming to conduct this exercise actually had to live a live fire, a situation. And, this happened after last night. The Israeli Air Force attacked two locations around Baalbek historical city in the Beqa Valley. One of the targets was a olive oil press factory, where all the farmers in the region bring their olives to squeeze and make olive oil. It's like a collective, a co-op kind of, factory, destroying it and hitting a residential home, killing 3 people over the last few hours. Also, the Israelis attacked again the area around Baalbek, and at least 9 civilians have been injured. And since then, again, Hezbollah has retaliated with a huge volley of missiles. There was also a volley of drones that targeted the main Israeli Air Force, an air defense command, actually. So this is the first time we hear them target the air defense command in northern Palestine. So this, shows you that Hezbollah is targeting the air defenses of the Zionists to make it much easier in a situation of direct confrontation for the Hezbollah missiles to reach their targets. So those waves, as we saw, of Katyushas and Burkan missiles overwhelmed the Israeli air defenses. And at that moment, you see the waves of drones targeting the Patriot and Iron Dome missile systems and being blown up, as we saw since the morning.
Israel's saying they're going to attack Rafah. They're saying they're going to attack Lebanon. Meanwhile, we see that Israel's economy has pretty much collapsed. It has pretty much collapsed. The Israeli leaders are pretending as though all is well. Get that five. So they're pretending as though all is normal, all is well, that they're moving forward. They have no economy. They're now purely a subsidiary of the U.S. empire economically. They have no way whatsoever to look after themselves economically. Certainly, an attack on Lebanon would end their economy, end it. Do you think that the Israelis, they're doing a lot of talking, they're going back and forth between Biden saying don't do this or that, and they're saying, we're not listening to you, we'll do whatever we want. What are your thoughts on the potential for Israel to attack both Rafah and Lebanon, and what would happen if they do?
Yeah, yesterday the former head of the Mossad said that Israel doesn't have enough soldiers to have a war with Lebanon after specifically the battle in Gaza and it losing much of the seasoned generals that they had that got captured or slaughtered on October 7th, and the many that died since in the confrontation on the ground. The other thing that we saw over the last week that proves that Israel is not capable of having this war with Lebanon was talk about recruiting and forcing all religious Haredim Israelis from serving in the Israeli army. Up until now, these religious Haredim get an exception from service in the army. And as that happened, we saw all these religious parties in Israel saying that if they are forced to join the military, that they will withdraw from the coalition of Netanyahu. That also prompted a rush to the airport, with thousands of these Haredim getting on planes, leaving to North America and Europe because of fear of being recruited in the Israeli military. And in response, we saw leaderships of the reserve battalions within Israel saying that if the Haredim are not forced to serve in the Israeli military, that they also shouldn't be forced to serve multiple, engagements, or that they should have the minimum of service applied to them. So now we see that clearly the Israeli military doesn't have the ability to have this war with Lebanon, or also they cannot invade Rafah. It's clear that they are not able to conduct that operation without a mass genocide of Gaza. And now connect that to what's happening to their economy. We already know that Israel lost 20 somewhat percent of its GDP over the last quarter of 2023. And since then, it lost even more of its GDP. It's currently probably standing at 50% loss of its GDP. There's little economic activity in the country. There's zero tourism, and it is now completely dependent on subsidy from the West. It was already dependent on it before, but now there's no way you can say that there is an Israeli economy that can survive without this subsidy. Add to the fact that we know the Israeli media announced to us over the last week that since the beginning of this war on October 7th, the United States flew in at least 150 heavy lift aircrafts full of weapons. This is above and beyond the ships that are bringing weapons, the land bridge that is bringing weapons. So the United States has emptied all its reserves, weapon reserves in all of its bases in Asia, Africa, and Europe, and has been even now flying some of its weapons reserves inside the United States to Israel. So we know then that without this non-stop air bridge, navy bridge, land bridge of weapons supply to Israel, it would have ran out of weaponry to fight the resistance in Gaza, and would have clearly lost this war without this continued resupply of its weapon caches. So economically, it's destroyed Israel. In terms of weapons, it is bankrupt. In terms of economy, it's bankrupt. There's no way to maintain this colony without direct subsidy in manpower, in military power, in finances by the West.
One of the things, if I could get you to comment, is that as you said, that something dawned on me. Israel and Ukraine are like twins, evil twins. Both of them have one particular ethnic group that feels that it's superior to another ethnic group, that wants to wipe out the other ethnic group using genocide. Both of them are losing. Both of them are now crying for money because both of them are running out of soldiers, because they're losing many more soldiers in the conflict than they're willing to admit, losing much more material than it's willing to admit. And both of them now are, I read the other day, the U.S. Debt, it now adds $1 trillion every 3 months of debt. So the U.S. is a fraud now. It's an economic fraud. It's like right now, if I had no job, no income whatsoever, and I just had credit cards and I just paid all my bills, bought, but not just existed on credit cards, that I said, I'm going on a trip to the islands, I'm buying a new car, I'm doing that. I didn't just exist and pay my bills, that I lived extravagantly and took care of 2 other expensive households, all on credit cards. The U.S. empire has 2 bastard children, evil bastard children, that are sucking it dry of money. How long can that go on? Your thoughts of the overall decline of U.S. imperialism as a result of these two military misadventures.
Yes, yes. And look, remember at the beginning of the Ukraine war, uh, the West sent all its mercenaries, to fight this war against Russia. And as we know now, that actually there is European and American troops on the ground in Russia, manning the Patriot missiles or firing the British cruise missiles or whatever you have. I forgot the name of the weapon. So now all these mercenaries have packed up their bags and are on the ground inside Gaza. So even the mercenaries and Western troops that were in the ground in Ukraine had to be withdrawn to fight this battle against the resistance in Gaza. So those failed mercenaries that had couldn't fight or defeat the Russians were brought into Gaza supposedly because it's a weaker enemy, a smaller group of fighters that you're going to have to face, and they still failed. So the war on Gaza, I think, now compounded the military defeat of Western might. When we talk about the war in Ukraine, there is some parity between Russia and the Western NATO alliance in terms of firepower and technology and number of troops. But in Gaza, this is a besieged extermination camp that has only around 30,000 fighters, trained fighters, taking on all the might of the West and all its most advanced technologies, and using homemade rockets and homemade anti-tank missiles to actually destroy the whole might of the West in front of our eyes. You see, I think that the battle in Gaza right now, it is even more significant as an indicator of the collapse of Western might, military might, than even the battle in Ukraine. And both of these countries, of course, are bankrupt, the Ukraine and the Zionist colony. And the United States and the West are, because of their inability to accept the new reality of multipolarity, or gradually retreat from their colonial and imperialist intentions, they are sinking themselves with Ukraine and the Zionist colony. And the more the West sends weapons to these two countries, and the more the West spends money on these countries, the more they will be more likely to collapse in the face of direct competition, militarily and economically, with Russia, China, and the new multipolar world that is arising.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been paying attention to it, but even Haiti, a country that has been besieged and destroyed for a century and robbed by U.S. imperialism, and now the puppet Haitian prime minister can't return to his own country. He was flying around the world and he couldn't come back to Haiti. He had to land in other countries because the people of Haiti are in the streets saying we've had enough with U.S. imperialism. And now the U.S. empire is trying to paint it as though, oh, they're criminal gangs and oh, the poor Haiti and all that. But what a lot of Americans don't know is the Haitians, it's a revolution basically. And the Haitians are saying, we're going to run our own country and we don't want you, Yankees don't come back here. I think it's wonderful. Even a poor country like Haiti, look at the Sahel in Africa, throwing French imperialism out. We are now seeing the entire worldwide colonized people, poor people, saying to the U.S. imperialists, the French imperialists, out of here. And I think a combination of Ukraine, a combination of October 7th, that these were I don't know if the right word is inspiration. I don't know if it's more like, you have a dry forest and all you need is a spark to light. I don't know, but your thoughts on that in general.
I'm glad you brought up Haiti, because for some reason, the Zionists over the last few days were comparing Palestinians to Haitians, but they were comparing it in a negative way. They were claiming, these are lawless, ungovernable people that are cannibals and what have you, right? And the response from the Palestinian people were like, there is no bigger honor than to be compared to the Haitian people, that the ones that defeated France and ended slavery, the ones that defeated America and its occupation, the ones that have refused for hundreds of years to be governable by the imperialist. There's no, for us as Palestinians, we see this as a glorious day to be compared to the Haitian people. I mean, we are, and the Haitian people are now symbols of the undefeated spirit over centuries refusing to be governed by imperialism and colonialism. And I, to see this solidarity between these two people and all these posts on social media, between Haitians and Palestinians, and the love between them, and their hate to white supremacy, imperialism, and genocide was I think exhilarating to many Palestinians. And I think, Palestinians, if they had the chance to be able to come to the aid of their brothers in Haiti, they would be. Similarly, I am sure if Haitian people had the chance to come and to aid the Palestinian people, they will do that. Our enemy is the same. And, to see how the West is, with its failures in Ukraine, with its failures in Palestine, with its failures in Africa, is now unable to control the island of Hispaniola, which includes Haiti, just a few kilometers off the coast of the United States. That shows you how much of the retreat of power that we are seeing. And I wish the Haitian people the best for them. And if Haiti is able to kick out America and the West interference, this will, be a dawn of liberation in all of the Caribbean. If Haiti, comes out of the control of the United States, then the rest of the Caribbean will follow. And I think this is why this amount of vicious hate that we see against Haitian people in the United States and in Israel itself, because they don't like people of color that are proud and ungovernable by colonialism.
What's interesting is this. I'm looking at it right now. When I look at the Biden administration, sure, there's been some, but there's never been in my opinion, since I've been here, a more Zionist government than the Biden administration. If you look at all of them, Blinken, Newland, I mean, top to bottom, his chief of staff, Ron Klain, Joe Biden, on, an exceptional Zionist government. And they are acting, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Taiwan, whether it's the West Asia. What we're seeing is Zionism is fascism, and the Zionists in the Biden administration are not just fascists in Israel. They're not just murderers and genociders in Israel. We're seeing with an openly Zionist government like the U.S. We've had Zionist governments, but never to this level. And they are the destruction of the United States, right? The Zionism through Israel and Ukraine is the destruction of the U.S. empire in a period of 4 years, of Joe Biden's 4 years. They're finishing this thing off. Right.
Yes. And I some of our American audience may not know this, but look, the idea that there is a chosen people and a promised land, and the is not unique to Jewish European colonists. I mean, the Europeans, when they arrived in North America, they said that they found the promised land and that they were the chosen people that this land was given to. The Pope gave a fatwa, a religious decree called Terra Nullius, which means an empty land, for a land without a people. So and of course, it's empty, this land, because indigenous people were, through this fatwa of the Pope, declared unhuman, as we see Palestinians being declared unhuman. And the ethnic cleansing, the genocide of the Americas, in the name of our prophet, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the prophet of love, was conducted under his name. Now we see Jewish Europeans enslaving people and stealing their land and killing, and in contravention of the Ten Commandments and in desecration of the name of our prophet Moses of Egypt. So this idea that of supremacy, of having the right to colonize and genocide in the name of God, is not unique in European history to Zionism. In fact, Zionism is just a cheap imitation of the same logic that we saw for hundreds of years being, coming out in the Western colonization of the Americas. These things are important for us as human beings to speak about, so we don't think these incidents in our history are unique. There is a continuation and a repetition in history, and then you will not be able to notice it and know how to combat it if you don't read history.
Let me give you a dead giveaway, right? Because my argument is Zionism, and particularly the Israeli project, was never about anything to do with Jewishness. It never was about the Jewish religion, ever. It never was. Because if it, let's face it, in reality, there was never a place that had more pogroms, that had more anti-Semitism than Israel. Than Europe. Then ultimately, the crescendo of that, the crescendo of 1,000 years of anti-Semitism, was the Nazi Holocaust. Because these people have been doing this, wasn't brand new. The Europeans had been slaughtering Jewish people for 1,000 years. Then the Holocaust was the crescendo. That was the final act, as it were, not necessarily final, but as far as a metaphor of a play the final act in this play was like, yes, now we're going to wipe them all out. That's the way it comes across to me. And then suddenly it was, well, we've got Zionism here. That's perfect. They already hated the Jews. They wanted them out. They used that as an excuse to say, we don't like the Jews here. Let's ship them over somewhere else. And we can use that as an excuse to steal oil, etc. And here's a giveaway that it's really European. They've got this thing. It's a singing contest or whatever the hell called Eurovision, right? And Russia can't be in Eurovision. But Israel's in the Eurovision contest. Eurovision. Israel is not in Europe. Israel is not a European country, according to them. Israel is in the Middle East. And not only are they in the Middle East, God gave them land in the Middle East. They have nothing to do with Europe. In fact, they're screaming, leave Europe, leave everywhere, come to our original God-given homeland in the Middle East. But yet they're still in the Eurovision contest, aren't they? That's the giveaway. They know it, we know it, and they all know it. This is a European project that has nothing to do with the Middle East. It has nothing to do with Jewishness. This is a European project to basically control and steal the natural resources of the people in the Middle East. The Eurovision contest, how come Lebanon isn't in the Eurovision contest? Saudi Arabia, only the people who supposedly God gave them part of the Middle East.
Yes, yes. And look, some of our viewers wouldn't know this, but Zionism didn't start with Jewish Europeans, actually. Or, I mean, sure, it was called Zionism by Herzl and the Jewish Europeans, but before them, Napoleon had the idea when he occupied Egypt and Palestine, and he got defeated in Akka, by the way. That was the extent of his, the furthest point his empire expanded. When he occupied Egypt and Palestine, he had a plan. He wanted to occupy all of the coast of Syria and North Africa, move all the Egyptian Christians from the center of Egypt to the coastline, move all the Christian Syrians, Lebanese to the coast where Syria, where Lebanon is, and in the coast of Syria, and to move all European Jewish Europeans to Palestine in order to have a buffer zone of Christian and Jewish Semites, okay, what he called, that will be in constant war with their Muslim, brothers and sisters in those countries, thus making sure no war from these regions could spill into Europe, and at the same time to distract these societies and make them spend all their resources in this internal war with this buffer zone that he would create. And of course, the British came after him and carried on the part about creating this Jewish state in the land of Palestine. And the French came and created this Christian state in Lebanon, again to create this buffer zone. They failed to create Alawi state in the coast of Syria, and they failed to create a Christian state in the coast of Egypt. But this was the intention. The intention was that, and we still see that is the intention. And today, these Jewish Europeans are actually dying to maintain the stability of Europe and Western imperialism. They're not dying for actual Jewish liberation. They are just pawns, and their leaders, the Jewish leaders in Europe and the United States and Canada, whatever, are selling their own people as cannon fodder to maintain the power of Western Empire ruled from DC.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Let's a few more things we want to touch on in the region. Have you heard anything about Yemen? I hear rumors. I've heard rumors that Yemen within the next year could end up in BRICS. I'm hearing a lot of rumors. What's happening in the Red Sea? What's happening with the conflict in the Red Sea? Yemen's success or lack thereof, etc.
Oh yes, today early in the morning, the Yemeni armed forces announced that they hit another merchant ships. It's called the Pinocchio. I was like the coincidence of Pinocchio with having his nose cut off, and they continue. They announced that they targeted British and American military vessels. There was at least 7 American and British air raids on the north border region of Yemen, Hajj, and on the coastal province of Al Hudaydah. We read Politico and other Western analytics talking about how the American and Western attacks on Yemen are doing nothing, and that actually Yemen is teaching the whole world a new military tactics about how a weaker, opponent could defeat such a huge power like the United States. And this is, changing 600 years of naval supremacy that the West has. Yemen is ending this. And 2 days ago, the Secretary General of Ansar Allah, Sayyid Abdul Malik Houthi, in his speech, he said that during Ramadan, there will be revealing of new weapons and new possibilities that will be surprises for the West. And in fact, we already started seeing them. Yesterday, there was a coordinated attack between the Yemeni resistance and the Iraqi resistance, simultaneous attack on the Zionist entity, with the Yemenis hitting Eilat with multiple drones and cruise missiles at the same time as the Iraqi resistance fired drones on Ben Gurion Airport and on Haifa. So we had the sirens blaring across all of occupied Palestine, from the most southern tip in Eilat to the most northern tip in the Galilee. So this shows you that we're entering a new stage, and that the resistance in Yemen is going to be a crucial component of this new stage in the confrontation between the axis of resistance and the Western Alliance and the Zionists.
Do you think, basically, I mean, Israel has been now for literally months, since the first few weeks into the genocide, they've been saying we're going to attack Lebanon any day. Any day we're coming in. Oh, we're coming to get Hezbollah. Well, we're going to have to do it. We're practicing for it. We're getting ready for it. I've heard that, but based on the things that I see, and these supposed arguments, I think they're all a fraud. The supposed arguments between Biden and Netanyahu, we're really supposed to believe this absurd theater. But do you think that they actually can or will attempt an attack on Lebanon, or just continue what's going on now?
Yeah, look, it's hard to really tell if the Zionists are just threatening something that they can't achieve, as we spoke earlier about the assessment of the former Mossad head, saying that they don't have the power to do this, manpower or what have you, or that they are going to do it. But in any case, the second in command of Hezbollah, in a speech last night during a funeral for one of Hezbollah's martyrs, he said that either of those choices, Hezbollah is geared up and ready right now for a full-scale war. So they're not leaving it to chance. Okay, Hezbollah is ready for a full-scale war with the Zionist colony, and as we see right now, it seems that the Zionist elite have no other tactical choices in front of them. Either they have a complete ceasefire, end of hostilities, and a full exchange of prisoners of war with the Palestinian people, or we will have to go to a bigger war where they need to genocide the Palestinian people so that the Palestinians can never resist again. There's no third option. So the possibilities of attack on Rafah and an attack on Lebanon are 50%. There's no other choice, 50-50. Either they surrender the Israelis and accept defeat and or go to a genocidal war that is much bigger than the genocide that we see right now. And looking at the United States plans about this pier in front of Gaza, it seems like we are heading to a bigger war, and most probably it will start within the next week or two as Ramadan boils over all the emotions in the region.
Yeah, I think the U.S. has two wars that it's really, the U.S. empire has two wars that it's lost, that are zombie wars. They're dead. The zombie's dead, but it doesn't know that it's dead. It thinks it's alive because it's still walking around. And that's both of the Ukraine is over. It's lost. It's done. There's no chance. Right now, they're just throwing Ukrainian cannon fodder out to get mowed down and pretend as though they still have a chance of winning through propaganda. Israel, what chance do they have? Everything is lost. The economy is done. The world despises Israel. People will not buy their stuff around the world. They're totally exposed as a far weaker military than they had proposed to be. And they're facing an enemy that they can't possibly defeat. And to me, the U.S. has 2 wars on its hands. The Afghans ran them out of town 2 years ago, and now they've got 2 more wars to me, they had no prayer of winning. The only thing they can do is have a considerably more disastrous defeat than they're currently facing. They can make their defeat much more disastrous than it is, but there's no chance of winning. I also suspect that in the event of a further war, you can comment on this, that you would see that part of what's going on with these coordinated attacks with the resistance are preparations, plans, practicing, so that if there's a broader war, the other resistance factions will be able to coordinate their attacks, and Israel wouldn't just be fighting in Lebanon or Israel or etc. That it would be coming from all directions, and should the U.S. join in, then their bases would get just around. They would face destruction everywhere.
Yeah, we spoke earlier about the readiness of Israel to have this war with Lebanon, and I think one of the factors that some people forget to think about is that originally there was the belief that Israel cannot sustain a long war, that all its wars since 1948 have been very fast, few weeks, maximum a month and a half, and that Israel also cannot withstand high number of casualties, that the Israeli military and the Israeli society cannot sustain those casualties, and that this will usually lead Israel to end these wars. And as we saw for the first time, Israel has moved from this kind of situation. Right now, we see the Israeli society as a whole accepting this long war, accepting high numbers of casualties, that the Israeli military itself and its morale can sustain this. So whether it's an illusion in their head that they can sustain it, their level of fascism and their internal cohesion now is much higher, that we can see that they can sustain a longer war, and they can accept hundreds of more dead soldiers and settlers. So this itself may be the moment of confusion within the Israeli elite that makes them slide into a war with Lebanon ready, while they're not really ready for it, because of this change in mentality that they have, or psychological cohesion. So I see us now it's more likely that there will be a war because of those situations. And it's also clear that because of the West support, the media in the West support, and 100% the support of the genocide, they feel more emboldened to do so. So we may see ourselves in this war because of these factors.
And the other interesting scenario, maybe you could comment on it. The interesting thing here is, and as soon as you said support from the West, I thought to myself, well, the ruling elite, yes. The people, no. Look at the people in the streets around the U.S. and Europe, and the media is doing everything they can to cover it up. People are blocking. They didn't cover how the State of the Union speech started late because protesters were blocking them. They didn't even cover that in D.C. They had trouble. The reason it started late was because protesters were blocking. They couldn't get to the building for the State of the Union. That they're in one day they're closing down a bridge and a highway. There's websites you can go to every day to find out where the protests are. So the media, if you read the US media, you wouldn't know the level of opposition to what's going on here. So the other thing is the ruling elite in the US, in supporting the Zionist genocide, are separating themselves from the people. In an election year here in the US, we're seeing all kinds of things. Look at what happened again with George Galloway, etc., that the support from the West actually now only translates into support from the ruling elite in the West, which further separates the ruling elite from the people.
Yeah, look, there was surveys done of Germany just last week, and that one was the one that shocked me the most. I mean, we already can feel that the majority of people in Canada, the US, and the UK and what have you are anti-Zionist or critical of the genocide. But Germany is supposed to be the safest place for Zionists outside Israel. The whole state apparatus and the whole population has been conditioned to think that you cannot criticize Israel because of the history of the Holocaust. And lo and behold, 67%, I don't remember the number, but it's over 60% of the population say that Israel is an enemy of Germany, an enemy, that Israel is committing war crimes and genocide in Palestine. This is the German people. So, of course, we saw the surveys done of the United States and the UK and Canada that also said the majority of the people in these nations are human beings that do not want genocide to be committed in their name. And everybody has eyes and ears and are seeing the truth, no matter what the media is trying to invent as a reality. The Western media is still, everybody has access to the social media that is informing us of what's the reality on the ground. So look at what happened in the Oscars. You had the winning documentary film being a documentary about the Holocaust, produced by a Jewish European, and supported by the Holocaust Museum, coming up on the stage saying that he doesn't want his religion, Judaism, and the history of the Holocaust to be manipulated to justify the genocide of the Palestinian people. And so many of the big artists in Hollywood were wearing a pin, red pin for Gaza. And to see the reaction specifically from all these Zionists, they lost their mind in attacking this Jewish director with a documentary about the Holocaust. I mean, they the amount of hate and vitriol and lies that they had to throw at this director to undermine his humanist stance is revealing. Because if they can do this to a Jewish white person who has a documentary that just won the Oscars about the Holocaust, supported by the Holocaust Museum, and they can call him an anti-Semite and defame him, who can criticize Israel? So now we see a total collapse of the Israeli Zionist hold on media, on people's minds in general in the West. And this is going to be something that is very hard for the Zionists to come back from.
I certainly agree. Once again, we've been talking with Laith Marouf. Laith has a great website now. He's working with, it's freepalestine.video. That's freepalestine.video. They're doing great work in English so that people who are, he's right there in Beirut. He's in the heart of West Asia, as it were, and they're doing work in English so that people around the world can see in real time what's going on, find out information from people who are on the ground, who are on the scene, who are living this every day. freepalestine.video. Go there, and it is important that you go there and you donate and help keep them on the air. Thanks a lot, Laith. Certainly appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Please
All right.
donate, as Garland told you. You can also put a monthly donation or once a time. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. All right, everybody. Got to run. Got lots of other things going on. Namely, I got to get ready to go to work. I got to go to DC to the studio. So thanks a lot, everyone. We're out.